Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a problem that on the surface seems like it's just about kindergarten. But the more I read through these sources, the more I realized this is actually about how human beings, really of any age, learn to think.
It really is. It's about the architecture of an argument.
Yeah. But before we get to the philosophy, we have to
Mhm.
start with the nightmare. The sources describe this specific moment in a classroom. They call it the frozen face phenomenon. And honestly, reading the description gave me a little bit of secondhand anxiety.
Oh, I recognize this immediately. It's visceral. If you are a teacher, you know exactly what this looks like.
So set the scene for us. What is the frozen face?
Okay, picture this. It's 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're a first grade teacher. You have just crushed a lesson.
All right.
You used the puppets, you did the funny voices, the kids were laughing, hands were in the air. You feel like teacher of the year. The engagement is just, it's
You're
100%.
riding high. The kids get it.
You think they get it. So you pivot. You hand out a worksheet and say, okay, write down what we just talked about, go. And you expect the pencils to start flying. But instead, nothing.
Just dead air.
Worse. It's paralysis. You look out and see 26-year-olds just staring. They're poking their erasers into the desk. They're looking at the ceiling fan like it's the most interesting thing in the world.
Oh, wow.
And it's not that they're misbehaving. They are completely frozen.
See, that's the part that surprises me. Because my assumption, and I think the assumption of most adults, is that if a kid isn't writing, it's because they weren't listening. Or they just don't know the answer.
Right, and that is the classic misdiagnosis. We assume it's a knowledge gap. We think, oh, I need to reteach the lesson. But the research we're looking at today says, no, the thoughts are in there. They know the answer.
So if they know it, why are they staring at the ceiling?
Because it's not a knowledge gap. It's an organization gap or an initiation gap. Think of it like a messy room. If I tell a 5-year-old, clean your room, and it's an absolute disaster zone, Legos everywhere, clothes on the floor, they just freeze.
It's too much. They don't know if they should grab a sock or a toy first.
Exactly. They lack the mental architecture to know where to start, so they don't start at all. They are overwhelmed by the process, not the content.
Okay, so today we are unpacking the solution to that paralysis. We're looking at a framework designed specifically for transitional kindergarten through second grade. It's called Tell, Find, Show.
Mm-hmm.
And the promise here is pretty bold. The sources claim this system teaches 5-year-olds to think like scientists and argue like lawyers.
It is bold, but it's backed up by the mechanics. It's essentially decoding the scientific method for the developing brain.
Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of Tell, Find, Show, we should probably talk about where this comes from. Because this isn't just some cutesy thing made up for recess. It has serious academic roots.
It does. If you talk to high school biology teachers or college debate coaches, they live and die by a framework called C.E.R. That stands for Claim, Evidence, Reasoning.
C.E.R. Yeah, that brings back memories of high school chem lab.
Right. It's the gold standard for academic writing. You make a claim, you provide evidence to support it, and you use reasoning to explain why the evidence matters. It's perfect logic.
Right, but I can see the problem immediately. If you walk up to a 6-year-old and say, please provide your reasoning for this claim, you're going to get that blank stare again.
Exactly. That is abstract language. And abstract language is the enemy of early childhood confidence. Asking a kindergartner for reasoning is like asking them to...
Explain tax law or something.
Yes, it's just not going to happen.
So Tell, Find, Show is essentially the translator.
It's the interface. It takes those abstract concepts, claim, evidence, reasoning, and turns them into a visual, concrete system. The sources describe it as a traffic system for the brain.
A traffic system.
Yeah, it uses the colors of a traffic light, red, green, yellow, and specific icons, to guide the student through the thinking process. It breaks the massive task of writing an answer into 3 distinct, manageable steps.
Okay, let's unpack this traffic light, because I have to pause you there.
Yeah.
If I'm a 6-year-old, red means stop. It means danger. It implies, don't do this. Why are we starting an argument with a red light? That feels entirely counterintuitive.
It's a great question, and the sources emphasize that this is actually the most critical psychological shift. In a traffic light, red means stop the car. Here it means stop the mouth.
Stop the mouth.
Kids are naturally impulsive. If you ask a question like, how does the bear feel? Their instinct is to blurt out the first random thought that fires across their synapses. They just want to make noise. They want to participate.
He's hungry. He's fuzzy. Just shouting things out.
Right. So the red light icon, which is paired with a picture of a brain, by the way, is a mandatory pause. It signals stop, think, Tell me what you think.
So it defines the what. It stops them from just guessing.
It creates a container for their opinion. It turns blurting into thinking. So step one is red, I think the answer is.
Okay, so we've stopped. We've used our red brain. We've made a claim. Now the light turns green.
Green is find. This corresponds to evidence in the C.E.R. model. The icon here is a magnifying glass.
And I assume green means go.
Green means go. Go find the proof. Go into the text. Go look at the picture. Go check the experiment. This is a crucial shift that the sources highlight. We are moving from what do I think, which is internal, to what do I see, which is external.
That is a huge shift for a kid.
Right.
What do I think is all about me? What do I see requires looking at reality.
It introduces objectivity. You can't just have an opinion. You need a magnifying glass. You need to point to something concrete. I see tears on the bear's face.
Okay, so we have red. I think the bear is sad. Green. I see tears. Now we get to yellow. Show. And looking at the sources, this seems to be the trickiest part.
It is absolutely the hardest cognitive lift. Yellow stands for reasoning. The icon is a pencil.
And sticking with the traffic analogy, yellow means caution.
Right. Caution. Slow down. Because now you have to connect the dots. You have the answer, the red, and the proof, the green. The yellow step asks you to explain why that proof supports that answer.
The prompt is, show how you know.
Or connect the dots. This is synthesis. It's not just copying a sentence from the book. It's generating an original thought that links the claim and the evidence. I know the bear is sad because people cry when they are sad.
That seems simple to us, but for a 6-year-old, that's a massive logical leap.
It is. And that's why the yellow box on the graphic organizers provided in the source material is often the biggest. It requires the most space, mental and physical. Without this framework, a child might stop at the bear is sad. They assume you know why. The yellow step forces them to make the invisible thinking visible.
So we have the traffic lights. Red, green, yellow, tell, find, show. It makes sense logically. But I want to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Please do.
We are talking about 5- and 6-year-olds. Some of these kids are still learning how to hold a pencil without stabbing the paper. They are still learning how to spell their own names. Isn't asking them to write out a logical argument, even a simple one, asking too much?
You are hitting on the single biggest barrier to early writing. The sources address this head-on with something called cognitive load theory.
Cognitive load. Break that down for us.
To understand this, you have to imagine the brain like a smartphone battery.
Okay, I'm with you.
A 6-year-old has a very small battery. Now think about the act of writing. Physically moving a pencil, remembering which way the letter B faces, remembering to put a space between words, spelling, because that is a high drain app.
It sucks the battery dry.
It drains 90% of their battery instantly. If a child is spending all their brain power just trying to form letters, there is literally zero brain power left for logic or storytelling.
So the mechanics of writing eat up all the bandwidth needed for thinking.
Exactly. And that leads to the frozen face. They overload and crash. So the framework introduces a golden rule for implementation. It's non-negotiable. Oral first.
Oral first.
The mantra in the sources is, if you can't say it, you can't write it.
That makes total sense. If they can't verbalize the argument, there's no way they're going to write it down.
So they use a strategy called talk your drawings.
Wait, we're drawing arguments now?
Yes. Before a student ever touches a pencil to write words, they draw their tell and their find. They draw the answer and they draw the evidence.
How does drawing help the battery problem?
Drawing is natural for kids. It's a low-drain app. They don't have to think about how to hold the crayon or how to spell bear. So by drawing first, they can get the complex ideas out of their head without the physical struggle of writing.
It's a rehearsal.
Exactly. And the sources list specific benefits. First, it organizes thinking. It is actually really hard to be vague in a drawing.
That's true. If I say the bear is sad, I can say that without really picturing it. But if I have to draw it, I have to draw the frown. I have to draw the tears. It forces specificity.
It's either a bear or it isn't. And then, once they have the drawing, they explain it to a partner. Here's the bear, here are the tears. That oral rehearsal locks in the logic.
So they've drawn it, they've talked it out, the battery's still charged because they haven't written yet.
Precisely. Now, and only now, do we ask them to write. And this brings us to what the sources call the magic keys, the sentence stems.
Sentence stems, these are the fill-in-the-blank starters.
Yes, they are bridges. They take the pressure off grammar and syntax so the child can focus purely on the content.
I want to hear what this actually sounds like in a classroom. Let's take a story about a character named Sam who broke a vase.
Okay.
If you ask a normal kindergartner, how does Sam feel, and you don't give them any help, what do you get?
You usually get one word. Sad. Or maybe crying?
Right. Which is true, but it's not an argument. It's just a noise.
Exactly. Now, hand that kid the magic keys, the sentence stems. We start with the red brain. The stem is, I think the answer is.
Okay, so instead of just sad, I have to say, I think the answer is Sam is sad.
You've already elevated the register. Now, the green magnifying glass. The stem is icy.
I see tears on his face.
And the yellow pencil, the reasoning. I know this because...
I know this because people cry when they're sad.
Wow. Okay. I see what happened there.
You see the difference. You went from a grunt to a paragraph just by following the colors. You have a complete logical triad. I know this because...
It's simple, but it is structurally sound.
And here is where it gets really interesting. As the students get older, say first or second grade, you shift to what the sources call scholar talk.
Scholar talk. I like that. How does the language change?
Well, we want to move away from, I think. It's a bit tentative, so the advanced stem for tell becomes, my answer is.
My answer is... That sounds much more confident.
And for find, instead of I see, we use the proof is.
The proof is... That sounds objective, like a scientist. And for show, the reasoning, we move to complex cause and effect. The stem is, this shows because.
This shows because. That's a compound sentence structure.
This shows Sam is upset because he broke his mother's favorite phase. That is sophisticated analysis for a 7-year-old.
It really is. And I noticed the expert in the source material pointed out an equity angle here too.
Yes, this is crucial. These sentence stems level the playing field. Think about English learners or kids who are naturally quiet or shy. If you don't provide the stems, those students often stay silent. Not because they don't know the answer, but because they don't know how to start the sentence.
They get stuck on the syntax.
Exactly. Giving them the proof gives them the formula to sound like an expert. It gives them a voice in the classroom.
I love that. It's access. Now, we've talked a lot about story Sam and the vase, the sad bear. But the sources emphasize that tell, find, show isn't just for reading circle. It's a cross-content framework.
Right. If you use the brain, the magnifying glass, and the pencil in reading, but then use a totally different system in math, you're just confusing them. You have to use it everywhere.
So how does this work in math? Math seems like it's just numbers. 5 plus 5 is 10. Where is the argument there?
The expert provides a great example. Let's say the problem is 5 apples plus 5 apples. Red, the tell. I think the answer is 10. Green, the find. I see 5 apples plus 5 apples. Now, the yellow, the show, is the game changer.
What is the reasoning for 5 plus 5?
This shows the answer is 10 because adding puts groups together.
Because adding puts groups together. Wow! That moves math from just memorizing facts to actually verifying the process.
It moves it from calculation to conceptual understanding.
There's another application mentioned that I thought was brilliant, and it wasn't even academic. It was on the playground. Conflict resolution.
Oh, the playground application is powerful. Usually a playground fight is pure emotion. He took it. No, I didn't. It's chaos.
So how does tell, find, show, fix a fight over a kickball?
Imagine a teacher steps in. 2 kids are screaming. The teacher says, okay, stop. Give me the red light. What is your claim? Kid A says, it's my turn.
Okay, that's the tell.
Then the teacher asks for the green magnifying glass. What is your evidence?
And if the kid can't point to anything?
Exactly. Usually the kid just says, because I want it. That's a claim with no evidence. But if kid A says, I see the clock says I have 5 minutes left, or I see the rule sheet says winner stays on, that is evidence.
He cools the temperature down completely.
It shifts the conversation from I feel to I can prove. If you can't find the green light, the evidence, your claim falls apart. It teaches them that an empty claim is just noise.
That is a life lesson right there.
It really is. And this brings us to the biggest aha moment mentioned in the sources. It's about the difference between guessing and understanding, the false positive.
Right. In a normal class, you ask a question, a kid guesses the right answer, and you move on. You think they learned it.
But they might have just circled B because their friend circled B.
Or they just got lucky.
Exactly. But with tell, find, show, you can't fake it. If a kid has the red answer correct, but they cannot fill the green box with proof, or they can't connect the dots in the yellow box the teacher knows instantly, you don't actually understand this.
It makes the thinking visible. It exposes the gap immediately.
And that is valuable because then you can actually teach. You can say, I see you have the evidence, but your reasoning is flipped. You can target the help.
So we've gone from the frozen face, that paralysis of the blank page, to a color-coded roadmap. Red brain for the claim. Green magnifying glass for the proof. Yellow pencil for the reasoning.
It's a scaffold. And like any scaffold on a building, the goal is that eventually you take it down. By the time these kids are in fourth or fifth grade, they might not need the little red icon anymore. But the neural pathway is built. They instinctively look for evidence before they speak.
And that leads us to the bigger picture here. Because we aren't just raising students who are good at worksheets. We are raising citizens.
This is the thought that I keep coming back to. We live in a world, specifically an online world, that is absolutely flooded with tell.
It's funny, as we're talking about this, I'm scrolling through my phone in my head,
Mm.
and I'm realizing that my social media feed, my news feed, it's entirely red lights.
It's a sea of red. It's all claims. This is bad. He's wrong. Buy this. Panic about that.
Where is the green light? Where is the magnifying glass?
It's usually missing, and that's the provocation the sources leave us with. We are trying to teach 6-year-olds to do something that most adults have completely forgotten how to do.
Which is to check for proof before you open your mouth.
Imagine a generation that is hardwired from age 5 to feel uncomfortable if they see a red light without a green light next to it.
They'd be immune to fake news.
They would at least pause, and that pause is everything.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where, before someone shares a headline or gets into an argument, their brain automatically flashes a yellow light and asks, wait, what is the reasoning here? Does the evidence actually match the claim?
It effectively inoculates them against misinformation. It turns critical thinking into a reflex rather than a chore.
That's the vision. It starts with a cartoon brain and a pencil icon, but it ends with a society that actually values proof.
And that makes me wonder, what happens when this generation grows up and votes? If checking for evidence becomes as natural as breathing, it could completely change the way we debate real-world issues. It's not just about getting an A on the test, it's about how we interact with the truth.
That is the ultimate goal of education.
Well, this has been a fascinating look into the architecture of thought for our littlest learners. I know I'm going to be seeing red, green, and yellow lights in every conversation I have today.
Once you see the framework, you really can't unsee it.
So, to you listening, whether you're a teacher dealing with frozen faces, a parent trying to explain why because I said so isn't an argument, or just someone navigating a lot of noise online, try applying tell, find, show. Stop and think. Look for the proof. Explain the logic.
It works for 5-year-olds, and it works for 50-year-olds.
Check your pockets for that magnifying glass before you speak. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.